Television Archive. My name is Paul Nelson. I'm the programmer of the archive, and I want to thank you all for coming out to our the latest night in our series, co-presented with the UCLA Department of Film, Television, and Digital Media, Hardcore, the films of Paul Schrader. Tonight we are screening Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters from 1985, with a script by Leonard Schrader and Paul Schrader, cinematography by John Bailey, a score by Philip Glass, production design by Aiko Ishioka, and starring Ken Ogata as Yukio Mishima. We are thrilled and honored also to have with us tonight its director, Mr. Paul Schrader.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to be back here to answer any questions or discussion. Why did I make this film? It's a very unlikely film. After I had written Taxi Driver again, and I saw Taxi Driver as a story of suicidal glory, of someone who was deluded into thinking that one's own death purified oneself, and a very Calvinistic kind of notion, like I was raised. And so I wrote a script about the life of Hank Williams, for Warner Brothers, but it got blocked because of the Williams estate. And I thought, well, that's not really a good idea anyway, because Hank and Travis Bickle, they're not that different. They're just stupid young American kids, singing their way to death. And I said, if you really want to do another film about suicidal glory, you should go all the way to the other end of the bookcase. Do a film about Mishima Yukio. Here's a man, highly successful, highly intelligent, highly rewarded, homosexual, artist of many, many proportions. The same fantasy, albeit in a Asian form, this notion of purification through death. And so once that idea sort of blocked into my mind, I began this quest to actually get the film made. And miracle of miracles, it actually did get made. And it exists, and it is a very, very unique film, and we can talk about it after you see it.
I want to quickly acknowledge that one of the reasons, a couple of the reasons why we're doing this series is not only is Mr. Schrader a distinguished alumnus of the School of UCLA Film and Television, class of 1970, but this series is also a way for the archive to celebrate and acknowledge Mr. Schrader's recent donation of his personal print collection to UCLA for care and keeping, but also applies to contemporary cinema as well, especially given the precarious nature of production companies in the independent film world. So I just want to thank Mr. Schrader again for that donation. Television Digital Media and his chair, William McDonald, for helping to make this series possible, and I want to thank going on right now. The canyon's opening. Well, I wanted to, you spoke a little bit at the introduction about your interest and fascination with Mishima Yukio. I wonder if you could expound upon that a little bit.
Well, I mean, he seemed to have, such an extraordinary metaphorical life. He sensed something that was going on just before it really took hold, which was that it was becoming possible to be more famous and a better communicator as a personality than as an artist. And at the age of Gore Vidal and Truman Capote and The Tonight Show, this is all starting to happen. And he began to see his life as part of his art. And so his final drama was on the stage at Gaia, and that really was dramatic production, for this audience of soldiers. And of course that phenomenon of art and life merging, has only grown since. But he spotted it quite early, and then he took it to a conclusion beyond which it can be taken no further.
Project together. I wanted to begin with, there was your interest in Mishima, but the Japanese interest in the Japanese side of it was a little different. He was sort of a taboo subject at this point.
Yeah, and in many ways still is. He wrote in such a complex way. He used katakana, and he used kanji, and he used hiragana, that the whole young generation of Japanese have that even hard time reading him anymore. But I jumped off. The big decision was how to get into this guy's life. Writers usually don't have dramatic lives, even when they do like he did. But most of their real life takes place inside their mind. And that's where he really was living. He was living inside these novels. And that you had to dramatize the novels in order to find out what he was really thinking. And so I found a novel from each of the three kind of phases he went through, and then was dramatizing that. And I would need such a large cast that there was no thought of doing it in English. And even Japanese who speak English have a very hard time speaking international English. And then 3 novels and his memories. And so it is a kind of a clockwork structure. It's not terribly emotional. It's not, oh, poor Yukio, let's feel for poor Yukio. It doesn't take you that direction. It just shows you a kind of puzzle box of fiction and reality, and asks you to think about it and appreciate the uniqueness of what was going on.
Did you had a lengthy negotiation with his widow to get the rights to that material, the novel?
Yeah, I mean, that was the problem. I couldn't make it without her permission because she owned the books. And I didn't want to make it without being able to make the books. So I was kind of caught. And she demanded, she wouldn't let me have the Forbidden Colors, which is the one I wanted for the second one, the sexual period. It was his only homosexual novel, and she wouldn't let me have it for that reason. She was a political widow, a professional widow, and she wanted to expunge all of his homosexuality from the record. But I did find the sadomasochistic relationship in Kyogo's house, a novel that had not yet been translated, and therefore she didn't strike it off the list, and I was able to go in and get it. I went over and we courted her, I would say, for a year and a half, and finally got her permission. And then about 2 to 3 weeks before shooting, she decided to, several months. She finally figured out exactly what consultation rights meant. And she had been led to believe by someone, I think the director, that they in fact meant more than they do. And she realized that she was not going to have any say in this. And so she turned against the film and called up the Old Boy Network, which is essentially the ultra-right, who worship Mishima. And there was a concerted effort to shut us down. Ultimately, it was decided, the death threats, and the producer had to send his family out of the country. Ultimately, it was decided that rather than shut us down, they would just prohibit the film from being released, and essentially made a deal with Toho that deal still stands in place. One of the interesting things about the financing is, you look at a movie like this and you say, how did this movie get financed? Good question. Tom, Lenny, and Francis and George and I wanted to do this, and they thought Zoetrope felt this would be a good thing to do. And there was a Japanese partner that my brother knew who had an animal company. And he was willing to put up $1.5 million in Japan. And based on that, Warner Brothers would put up $1.5 million here. And making it in the Japanese way, that would get up. Warner Brothers, of course, had no interest in doing this, but George Lucas was very offended by something Warner Brothers had done regarding pics. And George went into Warner Brothers, into Ted Ashley, and said to John Kelly, and said, I would like you to co-finance this. And Kelly looked at him and said, if we do this, George, will we have done you a favor? And George said, yes, you will have. Okay, so Warner Brothers really wasn't interested in the film. All they were interested in doing George a favor. So we have $1.5 million from Warner and $1.5 million that Mata has gotten from Fuji Television and Toho Toa. He has been fronting the movie with his own cash. Well, when Madame Mishima says she's going to buy the film, then she goes to Toho and to Fuji. And a representative from Fuji goes to Mata's office and says, I know we promised you this money, but the situation has changed and we cannot do it. Now, Mata was in for almost $1 million himself, more than he was really worth. And he had been borrowing the money. So he said to the guy from Fuji, he said, you know, I have $1 million in this and I'm not even worth $1 million. And if you bankrupt me and my company, I will have to do what I need to do to protect my children, which was kind of code language for, at that time, if a man commits suicide, his debts are not carried on to his children. So basically, he said to the guy from Fuji, if you bankrupt me, I'll kill myself so my children don't have to carry that debt. Now, the guy from Fuji is not hearing, oh, poor Mata Yamamoto is going to kill himself. The guy from Fuji is hearing, oh my God, no one will ever do business with us again. Because they will know that we gave our word, and we went back on it, and he had to kill himself, because we are so untrustworthy. I will lose my job, everybody involved will lose their job, it'll be over for us. And so about 2 weeks later, they met in a restaurant in Kamakura, and they gave him $1.5 million in yen in a suitcase. And to this day, they deny they gave it to him. And when the film was shown at Cannes, I went to the Toho party. I went to the head of Toho and I said, I want to thank you for helping get Mishima made. He looked right at me and said, we had nothing to do with that film. Conventional movie music either. And I needed something musically to tie all this together. And in talking, Tom suggested that Philip do it. And when I said to Philip, I said, I'm going to make all the boats. I want you to make a river. And your river will be, we will overscore this movie. And your river will run through it and I'll carry all the boats with it in their different shapes. So that was the concept. So he wrote the score without seeing the film. He wrote it from the script and reading Mishima's books the same way he wrote his own operas. And then he performed it on a little set. It was about 40, 45 minutes long. And I took that and I used it, I cut the film to it. But of course, nothing fit. So I had to repeat, overlap, cut, edit into dozens of misshapen pieces. But at least it hit all the dramatic points. And so then I went back to Philip and I said, I've scored it to your music, but totally ruined the music. So listen to it and tell me what you think. And so I said, okay. And he went back and rescored it now to hit all those spots. And then it was performed by a full orchestra. It's not an electronic score.
Amazing. It really. Microphones out in the audience. If anyone has any questions, just raise your hand. We'll bring a mic down. Right up there in the back. There's a mic coming to you right there.
I wondered if you had read Mishima's work before you created Travis Bickle.
No, I had not. I wrote Travis Bickle. Well, I had read Confessions of a Mass, but I didn't put the connection in. And I wrote, technically I first wrote that in 72, and Mishima killed himself in 75, and my brother was living in Japan at that time, and he was telling me all about this, and then so I started getting into it then.
Right here in the aisle.
It's really amazing because it for me, it's first almost kind of surrounding but also has where you get, your work on film noir and sort of right there on that side.
Yeah.
But my question is, I saw the Yakuza when it first came out, and I'd like to ask you what.
I don't see, the Yakuza was the first screenplay I sold, and my brother and I wrote it really to try to break into the film industry. It wasn't the first script I had written, that was Taxi Driver. And Bruce Lee had died, and I knew that everybody was disappointed because that was such a commercial engine of movies. And they were looking for another Bruce Lee. And my brother he had lost his wife, lost his faith in Japan, and ended up going to Yakuza movies. And so he was sending me letters about Yakuza movies. And so I thought, maybe the next Bruce Lee might be Japanese. And let's write a Yakuza movie. And so that's where that whole idea came from. And it was really a commercial calculation, whereas this is probably as far from a commercial calculation as you can get.
As art, what was your deep motivation? Honor or art?
Well, I don't know. Honor is not, he uses the word honor at the end, but really, it's all about art and action. And how can, you reconcile the power of art with the power of action. And, Mishima believed that physical beauty was an actual threatening thing. It was a danger. And that you had to fight. And one of the reasons he died when he did is he was getting worried that his body wouldn't be beautiful enough to kill. And if you look at all the exercising he was doing in the last year of his life, it was all on the upper body because he had to build his arms up to be able to do this. So he wasn't working on his legs much at all. It is a mad puzzle box. The reason people like Mishima are great artists is because they get into a space that in fact makes no sense, yet you can sort of understand it in a way. It's madness, but it makes no sense, and all of the dialogue, all the narration in the movie is right from his books, and that is right from his mouth. So when he's talking there about flying in that jet and the reconciliation and the surfing around the earth, and I saw, that you're into the pathology. It was full. And because this was the late 60s, and he went to Tokyo University and took on the student body and everything, and so he needed a platform. And of course, with all his homoerotic fetishism and his army of 100 young boys in uniforms. The left really doesn't let you, give you that kind of leeway. You really don't get to have an army of 100 young boys if you're on the left. So there was also the accoutrement of right-wingism, and then the huge shame of not having died in the war.
Would you then put in that, like the camp of fascism and the aestheticization of politics, and that kind of the body beautiful as the supreme goal?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, that's why he didn't get the Nobel Prize.
Right.
It was sort of set up for him, and instead Kawabata got it. And it really came down to two people on the jury in Sweden that thought he was a fascist.
Right.
And so I think he was a fascist play actor.
Questions from the audience?
It looks so easy, and it is so difficult. In France, at least, you have the cushion of an economic system that will aid you if you are an artist. We don't have that in America. Everything you have to raise money for. And so, although now with no-cost video, now that I've just made a no-cost video, I suppose I could try to make a transcendental film. Be a good way to finish it off. But I like that kind of spirituality, but I am much more interested in psychology, and those are not psychological movies. They're different. So beautifully. Do you want to say something about that? Well, I mean, I've always tried to. I don't like conventional movie scoring. Which is sort of running behind the movie with a mirror, happy, laugh, sad. Here's what you're supposed to feel now. And if you don't feel it, we'll play the music again until you do feel it. And so I was always looking for composers who didn't come out of that system. And the epitome of that system is John Williams, which just drives me crazy. And so you're looking for people who are in other fields, or you're bringing in. So the first two I did with Jack Nietzsche, who is an experimental composer out of rock and roll. The next two I did with Giorgio Moroder, who was the hitmeister of disco. And then I did one with Scott Johnson, who was an experimental composer. I did one with Phil Glass. I did one with David Grohl. I did one with Michael Bean. And you're always looking for people who haven't really scored before, because they're trying to solve these problems for the first time. Whereas when you go to a conventional composer, they've all solved these problems a dozen or 100 times already, and they just punch in the program.
Also,
simply because the average life really doesn't have that much drama, and I don't think you should make stuff up. I don't think you should put people in a room who never met each other. I don't think you should have composite characters. This girl stands for 8 different girls and stuff. So whenever I've tried to do a biography, I've tried to solve the dramatic problems through structure, rather than using the structure to solve the dramatic problems, rather than changing history in order to make it fit into a preset structure.
Hasn't gotten the recognition that it deserves, but
yeah, but I think it's hard to. It's available on tab, but I don't think it's available in PSE.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm the question on the aisle here.
He wined and dined his translators and people around the world. He saw himself simultaneously as very Japanese and very un-Japanese. And he once made that remark that he enjoyed saw that really kitschy French decor, that the house at the beginning, that's what it looked like. It was really tacky. And that, bright turquoise robe, that was a copy of his robe. So in many ways, he is, not what we call traditional Japanese. And the Japanese, of course, didn't know what to make of it. And another thing he did, which threw the Japanese off like crazy, was that he worked all over the place. He wrote Chinese-style poetry, he did pulp, women's novels. A lot of his work hasn't been published. He did kind of sadomasochistic stuff. He did theater, he did plays, he did the erotic photo albums. And he began to think that everything I do is part of my creation. And the low is just as valuable as the high. And this kind of sadomasochistic photo album is just as much part of my art as this really rarefied poetry that nobody hardly can even understand. So and he was a mixed bag. Japanese boy. That was shot the way Naruse would shoot it, but I didn't shoot much of anything else that way. Fix some things. Now, I had originally put in Roy Schrader's voice because I thought it was going to be just too much reading for an audience. And that way the voice would be in English and you wouldn't have to read so much because you had all the other subtitles to deal with. And then the Japanese were going to take Ogata's voice and put it on their version. Well, there never was a Japanese version. So that version never existed. So when Criterion did their disc, we were able to track down Ogata's narration because he had died by that time, and put it in the film. And also, I had done something in 1985 that I had been kicking myself in the head for ever since. Is one of my favorite actors of Japan is Chishu Ryo, who is Ozu's stalwart actor. And I talked him into being in the film, and he's in a short little scene in Golden Pavilion where they're playing Go, and he's a priest, and the acolyte comes in. And I cut it out. And it was only 90 seconds long. And for years I was saying, what was I thinking? So when Criterion said they were going to do it, I said, can I put that scene back in? I should have never cut it out. So it was in here. Although Chishu Ryo's name was not in the tail credits because we didn't have the time or money to redo all the tail credits. But at least he's back in the film.
My second question was just follow up on what Paul said, the similarity of the structure between this and At Hearst. I see a lot of other similarities with Comfort of the Strangers when I'm watching it now, when I saw this film now. Just to mention that show like that Lamented, throughout, which is excellent.
Prediction. I loved her so much I hit her. And I loved her so much I hit her again, even better. So, you're always looking for people who are saying one thing, doing another, acting against their own best interests. The unreliable narrator, Travis Bickle saying, I need to purify my body while he's taking pills, and all that. So you're always kind of looking for that. And then, because of that, you end up sometimes getting material that other directors are afraid of. Like John Schlesinger was going to do Comfort of Strangers, and he got scared at the last minute. When Adam Resurrected had been to the usual suspects, Sidney Pollack and Sidney Lumet, Barry Levinson, and this is the film about the man who thought he was a dog and the boy who thought he was, And the producer, Ehud Bleiberg, Israeli, said to one of the agencies, because they were getting turned down on the script, and he said, don't you have any directors who aren't afraid And they said, well, I mean, Schrader would probably do it. And I read the script and I thought, wow, this is great, I want to do this.
And Jeff Goldblum plays the main character. It's amazing. And it kind of came and went. I mean,
Yeah, it did not touch, it made really no contact. I was surprised by that.
but that is, I know, on DVD, and if you get a chance to see it, you're really.
And, there's a lot of the symbolism stuff, that was kind of the inspiration for Raging Bull, to do a sibling movie. The truth was is that he gave me, everything in terms of inspiration, and then I surpassed him, and I hit him with an elbow as I went, and he didn't forgive me, and so we fell out. That's just the unpleasant reality of family relationships, you're both trying to get in the same space, and so he died about 7 years ago, and I really was torn up, because even though we were speaking again at that time, and he died young, we had not yet gotten to that point. And there was just so many things I would have loved to talk to him about. And then within a month, he went into the hospital, and 4 days later he's dead. I'm not sure,
Mr. Schrader.
his cadence, everything. And now with this film that's written by Bret Easton Ellis, I didn't change the Harry at all either. And so the thing was, I think the thing is more Bret than me, and Bret thinks it's more me than him. So I think that was a good collaboration.
Oh, Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Schrader, thank you so much for being with us here tonight.